The NFL draft has come and gone, and it is so exciting for the NFL draft, especially for me, watching college football and then watching these guys get drafted in the NFL, undrafted free agent, all of them. It's just amazing to see. But there are some things that I picked up on watching the NFL draft this year that I was thinking about last year that I felt like I didn't have enough information yet to make some decisions. And those decisions, it is now time for me to have that conversation because I believe that I learned a couple of things about college football, the state of college football, and how the state of college football is actually impacting the NFL in different ways, and maybe even ways that we don't think about because we're just so used to players playing in college, then going to the NFL, and then everything is fine. So in my February challenge, I made a video and I said I was going to look at all the first rounders in the first round to see how many stars they had last year's draft. And then this year's draft, when the first round happened, I was going to do the same thing. And so I took time to go look back at last year's, to go look back at this year's, and to see if there were any trends and to see what was going on. Well, in last year's draft, I'll put something up on the screen so you can actually see this so that this makes sense. So in last year's draft, there were 11 5-stars that got drafted, 15 4-stars that got drafted, 4 3-stars, 2-stars. You can see it all on the screen. What I find fascinating, though, is if you look at this year and if from how the 5-stars, there's 7, there's 13 4-stars. Now there's 3 10-stars. Now there's 10 3-stars, so forth and so on. You can look at the graphic to kind of see how it compares to last year, how it compares to this year, and what the differences are. And what that is telling me is I am wondering how big of an impact stars are in college football now that the transfer portal has happened. So there's a lot of different moving parts with this. And let me start by saying this. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Leave me a comment in the comment section below and I'll let you get back to your video. So here's what I think is happening. There's a lot of different things happening that turn out to equal one thing. So the first thing that is happening is if you have college football where the lower tier schools are really becoming feeders, what ends up happening is we don't know what stars those guys are. Think of it like this. 5 stars are always going to be 5 stars per se, we think. But just because you're a 5-star doesn't mean you're going to immediately go to college football and you're going to immediately work out. And so if you do your first year and you don't work out, the transfer portal doesn't necessarily register your stars the same. So you almost get a wash. You almost start back with 0, right? And more players are not 5-stars than are 5-stars. I am not talking about the elite talent of the elite talent. The elite talent is going to be elite talent. They're probably going to go to college and stay 3 years. They're going to come out. They're going to go into the NFL draft. It's going to be what it's going to be. The issue, though, happens, usually there's about 32 to 45 stars, depending on where you look, right? Depending on where you look, that's how many 5-stars. So if you have 45 stars one year, 45 stars another year, eventually some of those 5-stars are going to fall off. Some of them are not going to fall off. And those are the guys that are going to stay in college for 3 years. They're going to go to the NFL. The problem is that is only a select few. That is, let's just give them the 1%. And so we all know 99% is more than 1%. And so once the 1%ers go, when you start to really look at the information, college football gets interesting because what is happening is players are staying longer because they're able to make more money in college football than some of them would make in the NFL. Because if you go day 2, day 3, day 4, you probably, there's not a day 4. Day 4 is undrafted free agent. But like if you go at the end of that, you are actually making more money in college football than you are in the NFL. And because there are so many teams in college football, the opportunity for you to make more money is actually in college football. Depending on what type of talent you are, chances are you're going to be making more money in college football than you would the NFL because there's also the grown men that are already in the NFL. So there's this weird thing happening with the funnel. And so if more people are staying in college football, that naturally means the draft picks are going to get older. And so I took some time to do some research and to figure out, like, is this theory even right? I knew that there were older draft picks just based on like some names and things like that, but I actually wanted to test my theory to see if I was right, to see if the draft was getting older. Because if the draft is getting older, that is also going to impact the amount of people that are coming out year after year. Therefore, you have an NFL draft where people say it is a down year. It is a down year because people aren't racing to go to the NFL like they used to. There's a lot of people right now in college football that are eligible to get drafted that decided to come back to college football to raise their stock higher, to do more, and because they're making a lot of money in college football. So what that does is that funnel that usually goes to the NFL, it stops it a little bit. And so for the next couple of years, we might have this weird lull where people are saying the draft is stacked in the top 100, or the draft looks good for rounds 1 and 2. And then after you get through that, you go through the next rounds and it gets a little weird. And that is because college football has changed what they are doing. And so if college football is changing what they are doing, and that funnel is the funnel that feeds into the NFL, obviously things get off track. But here's where it gets interesting. First year, you're up high, right? Let's say you redshirt, whatever you do. Second year, you drop down. Now third year, coming back up. A lot of those players aren't going third year NFL. A lot of those players are going third year. Let me renegotiate my contract. Let me stay in college another year, get better, do what I need to do. And so the draft is starving a little bit for talent. And so there's this weird thing happening right now where everything is a little bit off because the NFL doesn't get that rush of talent that they're used to, because that talent is staying in college football a little longer. And so I am team get your money, college athletes. Get that money as long as you can. The NFL will be waiting for you when you get there. It doesn't always work out for everyone to stay longer in college football as opposed to going to the NFL. But what it does do, if you're the best player on your team and your team doesn't historically get a lot of people drafted, it's actually a really great idea to stay that additional year in college, get that additional money, maybe learn how to manage your money a little better, maybe raise your stock a little bit, and then go to the NFL. You've made more money, you've had more time to get developed, and the NFL is a business. You still get to enjoy the college experience, because at the end of the day, players have to look out for themselves, just like the NFL teams look out for themselves. Stay in college football as long as humanly possible. And then when you go to the NFL, you go to the NFL, but make that money do what you need to do. I think it's a great financial decision. I think it's a great business decision. And we're seeing more and more of it. And so I'm wondering how that's going to impact the draft. I'm wondering if we are going to continue to have drafts that are lower in quality because more of those athletes are staying in college football. It will eventually get back on an upswing and it will eventually cycle itself through. But right now, I think it might be this way for maybe another year or two until the market can really reset, because right now it's not really resetting. Kids are electing to stay in college football more than they're electing to go in the NFL draft. And that is because they're getting paid very well in college football. The feeder for me for college athletes, if I had a young son in college athletics and he went to a Power 4 school and he needed to go somewhere else to play better, I would have him go to a smaller school for 2 years and see if you can play there for 2 years, and then see if in your final season you can get bumped up or whatever you need to do. Because really being the teams that are the feeders into these big schools, and that has proven a path for success because those players are genuinely older. And so I like that path. And so if that works for these student athletes, I say go for it. Don't rush to go to the NFL if you don't have to. Stay in college football. If you need to go to a school that's not a P4 school for a year or even two, do that, because then the ask of you and your dollar value is going to be worth so much more once you get that chance to go back up. I love that idea. And I think it's smart. More student athletes should actually start doing it, because eventually it's going to make the total product better. But right now, we need to rebalance these scales a little bit. So these athletes need to do what's best for them. I have no problem with them doing that. I also made a video about the SEC having the best talent and the Big Ten having better teams. The Big Ten has better teams at the top. That is shown by the NFL draft. The NFL draft, there are 21 more SEC players that were drafted in the NFL draft, and every single SEC team had someone drafted in the NFL draft. What that tells me is the teams that are good in the Big Ten, the top heavy teams, are good. They're great. They get a lot of people drafted. They're fantastic. However, when you get down to the bottom tier of those schools, they just are what they are. And those top teams in the Big Ten are playing those teams in the Big Ten. And so there's that. But what happens in the SEC is every single team is talented, and in any given day, you could lose a game. And the NFL is telling you, we also like these athletes. We want these athletes. We think these athletes have a better upside. So let's bring them to the NFL. NFL. This is also why I think the SEC made a huge mistake going to 9 games. You are already the most talented conference. When you're the most talented conference, why make your conference even harder by adding an additional game? That was a huge mistake. I don't know how they can fix that, but the SEC might have screwed themselves by adding that 9th game this season, by having to play another SEC team. They thought they were doing it in good faith. It was not in good faith. It was a bad idea, because we all know I've been whining about this committee for I don't know how long at this point, but the committee does not care about your strength of schedule. The committee cares about wins and losses. And when your schedule is tough and when these conferences are large, what is going to happen is there is going to be some SEC teams that probably lose 2 or 3 games, and now it's going to get weird with getting them in to the playoffs. But the SEC did this to themselves, but they still remain supreme when it comes to drafting players. You can't deny it at this point. It just is what it is. At some point, there's going to be a day where the SEC has 100 people drafted in the NFL, and that is going to be absolutely insane when it happens. The NFL has spoken. They have told us that they believe the best talent lives in the SEC. That is how they drafted. That's what they continue to do year after year after year. I am not even going to talk about the ACC and Big 12 right now because it doesn't even matter. This is just about the SEC being who they are, and the Big 10 obviously having a lot of tremendous talent on their top teams, but everybody else just kind of there, and we just saw that play out in the NFL draft. Having said all of this, the one thing that is really impacting and that's going to continue to show, in my opinion, its face in the NFL, and the value is going to be interesting to see how it moves, how it ebbs and flows, is going to be the stars. The stars seem to be the things that are going to go up and down, because as players move to different teams, as they start doing different things, being able to track what their star power was coming out of college is going to get interesting, because I don't know how that's going to level out. I don't know how it's going to fall, but I am fascinated. I am all in. I will be watching. You should all know by now, I'll be watching. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. As always, I'll see you in my next video.